My second upload for today is with regard to what I've been referring to, that is common knowledge, the developments that have been occurring since 2016 initially by computer aided design, and more sophisticatedly since 2018, 2019, with more advanced developments that I did not consent to. So anyway, it's common knowledge that there have been feathers ruffled and wildlife disrespected and dirty politics at play. And it's awful having a clean track record in a humanitarian perspective and confronted with very malicious, ruthless adults that have been disgruntled, I suppose, with problems they've set in motion with an unlawful care order in January 2017, that have failed to take responsibility for that initial wrongdoing, which culminated in other events that they're quite irate about. And like an impetuous, childish mindset, there's been a hateful set of sequences occurring by individuals that you'd expect a little bit of integrity from. And not only did they insult other people, they highly insulted the democracy's constitution with regard to their offences and wrongdoings that they initiated, and caused and brought upon themselves the problems that have occurred simply by withholding my child illegally from me and causing hospitalisation to a sane and sober recovery advocate married mum without not one single lawful act in the entire situation. So they've had their ruffled feathers to disgruntle them, and they've continued on with the problems they've been making without one shred of conscious moral behaviour to contribute to the circumstances. They've impinged upon me since 2006. And, January 2017 was when my child was unlawfully separated from me, and he was hurt, and he was harmed, and I wasn't able to soothe him or save him. He was kept from me illegally. Now, presently, there are individuals that are of exacerbation and false reporting and retaliatory offences and antagonism, and thought police have had a part to play in all of this as well, with the damages they're doing to my sacred purpose. So in many respects, they've offended so many aspects of humanity, the Constitution and the Declaration, without a shred or an inkling of shame about it. So it's a little bit more serious than childhood tactics, playground tactics. Women's rights have been jeopardised, and there's been a cycle of repetition, and there's been awful offence to the scales of justice. And as I keep mentioning, I have a very clean conscience and I have very clean hands, and there are individuals that are making another big problem with regard to my property, and they have offended the family of that property, and they've offended this abode where I am. And basically I've tolerated the intolerable, and there have been other casualties as well. I'm not the only one that suffered, I know that, but those that have suffered, I'm sure, are taking responsibility for their own actions, behaviours and thoughts and words, and their own offences. I didn't set about to offend anybody. My homes have been offended. There's been trespassing and intruding, and there's been exploitation, etc., etc. And there hasn't been any justification for any of it except malice and hatred. This situation is after disrespecting women and children's rights, and it's a poverty mentality, basically, that these people have demonstrably set about impoverishing me and denigrating me and defaming my good name. And they have not even had one interaction with me. They don't know me, but they trespassed upon me and intruded upon me and caused harm that was needless. There was no reason for my child to be withheld from me. And they had no basis for treason. They had failed attempts of treason that I personally addressed, which was my full right. And they repeated the cycle of treason by new means and new people and with new problems. So it's the 21st of the 6th, 2022, and in 2019 I contacted the European Court of Human Rights and I haven't heard from them. I contacted the Government of Ireland in 2017 and there's been an obstruction. And it's common knowledge throughout this community who, why, where and when. And I'm a married mom and I have a clean conscience. And these people have gone to awful lengths to cause more problems. Bigger problems than they caused in 2006 and bigger problems than they caused in January 2017. And I'm a humanitarian. So as a married mother, this is another aspect of it, the issue of prostitution. I've experienced adultery in my marriage since about 2016, 2017. And I formally sought legalisation to separation, and that was refused and denied. And that was in 2018, excuse me. So my legal rights, my medical rights, my rights to property, the whole lot, they've decided to just destroy it or disrespect it and demolish it. And they're living off my wealth and they're living off my work. And I'm not being cheeky, but I just find it bewildering that these people would think it at this stage of the day anyway safe or sensible to be continuing what they're continuing with, especially since I've been tolerating this since 2006, and especially when there's a debt owed, and especially when they don't have rights to my property or my child, and so on and so forth. So there's false reporting going on, and I'm concerned about the mental health. I'm a recovery advocate, I represent fellowship, I'm sanity and sobriety. This situation is really uncomfortable to be discussing, but this is the reality of it. Hate crime is very present in this situation, and defamation of a good name is not forgivable. And there are people that are over preoccupied with problem making. They haven't got the mentality to solve the problems they're making. They just make problems worse, and the casualties get worse, and there have already been casualties. My child has been one of those casualties because of these people that decided, get them up there, collect her, bring her back to Tralee and separate the child from her for no grounds or basis. No reasoning, no rationale, no legality at all. And these people are mentally preoccupied, disturbed about this person that they have defamed, disrespected and developed illegally from without my consent. And they're monetising. So it's a sad sign of the times in County Kerry, Munster, southwest of Ireland, that these people have been so rude to the democracy and they're playing Russian roulette with people's lives and consequently, negatively impacting their own. That they have been so rude and cheeky is one aspect of this matter. To intrude upon my child as they did, that was one of the biggest problems they could have been making. And as a consequence of that, they've made other problems and they're still making problems. So it's unfathomable that any self-respecting professional, politician, policymaker would be privy to all of this knowledge. This is a documentary, but there's a collective out there campaign of hate crime culprits, really lowering the standards of Irish society in this community, simply due to their avarice, their greed, etc., etc. So those people that were involved in January 2017, offending my child and I, they don't have ownership of my farms in Kilflynn or Ardfert since 2015. Now, they haven't gotten over that hurdle. They have caused illegality, fraud, theft, etc., and child harm. And there's been the faith issue as well that they've been dabbling with. So in many respects, I've been confronted with it all. And I'm still here, even though there have been attempts in my life. And the authorities did not prioritise my safety. The authorities have obligations to my identity. My royal titles in particular have been put in jeopardy by individuals that are preoccupied with land. And that ancestral land of mine, from my wonderful husband, Mr. Richard McElligott, missing person, the only father of my child, our properties have been disrespected, and there are people that are not welcome, and they don't have the Céad Míle Fáilte to be doing the things they're doing on those farms. They haven't got the support of my family to be going on to property that they don't own and that they haven't gotten permission to be venturing on. So those people that are bad politics, dirty politics, it's awful crude. I don't like discussing it, but it's a simple fact. They've resorted to really low base standards and behaviours that are insulting to any self-respecting human being, adult. And they've brought this situation into awful territory. So the United Nations is getting another update. I'm tolerating human rights abuses since I became a married mother by collective